Okay, there's a controversy going on, and it touches on a subject that I know a little bit about, just like teeny bit. And there's so many more people who know so much more than I do, but I do have an opinion. So it's a very well-known Indigenous activist and artist who is being questioned on their DNA and if they're really Indigenous or not. And this person was adopted and doesn't know her ancestry, but was raised with the story that she's Indigenous, and went and searched out for herself her culture. Anyway, there are a few people out there who pretend, it's happened a few times in the last couple of decades where it's come to light that some kind of accomplished Indigenous or African American or otherwise minority group person is not actually part of the group that they claim to be from, and that their identity contributes to their success. There's always a lot of backlash, and I think the backlash is because marginalized groups have a really hard time getting opportunities, and then because marginalized groups are working against so much. If we are going to talk about indigeneity, then we also need to talk about colonial influences on indigeneity, on the concept of indigeneity. Because before colonialism, before the colonists came here to Turtle Island, North America, before the Europeans came, the people here had other names for themselves other than Indigenous. They didn't call themselves First Nations, and they didn't call themselves Native. They didn't call themselves those things. They had their own names, She's a person. She has an identity. She took a whole lifetime to make it. She made it in context with the people around her, who are mostly members of the community that she belongs to. People belong to the world. People have a right to be where they are. People have a right to move. Colonization is not the same thing as immigration. Colonization is structural, political, devouring, okay? And colonization invented Indigenous labels in order to reduce the population. How was it done? I mean, it was done in so many ways, but basically the whole goal was to erase the Indian. And so by making them all one homogenous group and then whittling away at who was allowed to be part of that homogenous group, colonization is also genocidal. I don't identify as Indigenous to anywhere. I was born here. But I did a DNA test and I found out that I am 100% Northern European. That's really interesting. But I'm not a native of Scotland. I wasn't born there. Never been there. Never set foot on the land. I'm not Indigenous to Scotland, even though that's where my genetics are from. I'm not Indigenous to France, even though that's where my genetics are from, right? And I'm not Indigenous to my home, even though that's where I am from. But I am interested in finding out about the Gaels. And I think that someone who is growing up and being told that they are adopted and that they're Indigenous and they don't know anything else, but, you know, they're going to grow up and they're going to want to know about their history, and it's very normal to try to find out and to build an identity based on the life that you live. Right? So I don't think that we should be jumping on people who clearly have, like, this artist has like 70 years, 50 years, I don't know, 50 years of a track record for us, right? 50 years of activism and pro marginalized Indigenous people. So I think that matters more than what her DNA is. And it certainly matters more than the accident of her birth. Or shall I say the miracle? Anyway, she has all my support.